Okay, hello Taurus. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. Welcome to your new moon astrology forecast. We are looking at the new moon in Pisces on March 2nd, 2022. Welcome back everyone, and welcome if you're new to the channel, new to the series. Thank you for being here. This is for Taurus rising, Taurus moon, Taurus sun, and we're going to look at the new moon in Pisces, as I said, and the general themes leading up to our full moon in Virgo, which will be on the 18th of March, 2022. So, Taurus, I think you are ready. You are ready to step into a role. You are ready to find yourself. You are ready to become a symbol of a consecrated person, an example for others to follow in your footsteps. And you are ready to step into a position of guidance and leadership in the social setting as a whole. And you've been ready to bring this very broad humanitarian, mystical, and spiritual aspect into your experience of the social environment now for a long time, since Neptune has come into Pisces and your 11th house. So this has been a long time coming. It has been broadening the spectrum, so to speak, with Neptune for a long time. And now there is some meaning behind it with Jupiter, and there's a sense of initiation. And the 11th house is where we realize ourselves. The 5th house is where we realize ourselves as individual voices and what we're passionate about. The 11th house is the collection of all of those voices into the collective. So a jury of your peers, right? This is the people in the church congregation themselves, the energy that is held in the relationships of, and the full experience of all of these individual voices coming together in harmony. That's the 11th house. And so Taurus, the reason I think this is about you, this new moon is really for you to establish what type of avatar you want to be aligned with and to develop as in the social setting, and what inspires you to inspire other people is because you have Uranus and the North Node in your first house of who you are, right? It has been a glitch in the matrix for everybody consistently, a lack of stability and resources and assets, a lack of stability in the objective safety of the world, a lack of stability in all manner of valued assets, and a lack of stability in even just what is real. And going right into the very essence of your identity and who you identify yourself as, Taurus, and to have the North Node also here in this territory, showing the area of life where your soul evolution is really pulling you currently, is about who you are, right? Is about stable, fertile, strong, fixed earth, right? This is about patience. This is about stability. This is about inherent value. This is about natural rhythm. This is about the planet. This is about our DNA blueprint, right? This is about the soil. It is about the soil in which the seed is planted. And again, Taurus people are the future, because it's who you are that makes up the living soil of this new earth, right? And I know it hasn't been easy, and to have crisis after crisis of identity going on as Uranus is transiting through your first house. But this is where your soul growth is happening, is in this area. And it's by making a choice with this new moon to align oneself with a symbol of courage, with a symbol of valor and leadership, as an example or a representative of what it's like to give oneself over to God's will and be an instrument of it, or source, or our higher self, the mission of compassion, right? This is, you are ready and ready to set the precedent for this particular personal expansion, but in a very social way, in your social networks, in your larger social groupings. And it's the fact that your personality and who you are has not been stable that has initiated real change in your identity and opening up opportunity to invest that maybe outside of outside of the box, innovative thinking, and conception of who you are, right? Like really actually being kind of alien, but also at the same time, strangely grounded with the Taurus. It's like the ability to access this realm is exactly what is allowing you to align with some sort of representative, you as a representative of this to other people, and somebody that people can look up to, people that can see a symbol of courage and of leadership. Taurus, you're ready, right? And this is a great opportunity to set the intention. Boy, talk about optimism. The sun is going to meet Jupiter during this time between now and the full moon. I mean, it is going to be a lot of optimism. And this is all in trine to the star Sirius with Black Moon Lilith involved, right? So this is also emotionally stabilizing you with this water trine to Sirius, which is a connection, especially if you're Sirian starseed. I mean, this is establishing a connection to something primal and something deeper than just the individual consciousness, even if it's the feelings, right? This is something deeper where we've all come from, the void, right? The space in which creation happens, and it has its equal footing, right? It has its equal demand to be heard, which is just what Lilith in mythology represented, and also represents the divine feminine in its most pure aspect, and that has all of the qualities of the yin, of the darkness, of the moisture, of the soil, of the stillness, of the darkness. It is the space, and it will be heard, right? So Taurus with Black Moon Lilith here with Sirius, right, in a trine to this new moon. It's in your own mind, in your perceptions, and in the way that you communicate, the interactions you have on a daily basis, the third house, and it's the connection to something deeper than even yourself that is, I think, very stabilizing for your mind and your perception. And it's going to come through those channels, right? The cognitive channels and the perceptive channels and the sensory data that's coming through your third house, how you communicate to people, the quality of your mind and the way that you process information, and your consciousness, right, Taurus? I mean, quite simply, your consciousness has the quality of the Cancerian element, which is, being stable and fixed and steady and patient as a Taurus person allows for an environment in which you allow other people to be themselves, right? And you allow the stillness of the emotional water so that people can experience depth, can experience security. This is how the consciousness functions for the Taurus person. And so something very deep there is a great place to connect to and allow an expression of, right? Black Moon Lilith, we tend to, stuff in the corner because it's a powerful, very primal expression that we don't often feel like we can control. And so you might find yourself actually speaking from a place that you didn't even realize existed. Go with it if it seems like it is of a guardianship nature and really voicing and expressing one's own power. I think that would be a really helpful thing in this instance, Taurus, with this Syrian and galactic avatar new moon. And we know that Mercury and Saturn are together right now in your 10th house. Venus and Mars have been traveling together. They're about to meet Pluto in your 9th house. There's been a lot of destruction for the last few years, especially in belief systems and larger systems of belief and value, collective value, social meaning, right? This is where religion and philosophy and even scientific acceptance and theories, right? They exist in the 9th house, right? They haven't actually created anything of substance yet, but this is the power of this process is the 9th house. So it is exemplified by foreign and exotic travel and broader perspectives and understanding and higher education. But really the belief systems, I think, and that are so connected to the institutions themselves for the Taurus person have been undergoing some substantial overhaul. And, Pluto has just been making short work of this. And now Venus and Mars are kind of assessing the damage and going through and kind of and developing, and sanctifying some new growth, right? At least planting some seeds, at least acknowledging that there is a space to plant seeds and where they're going to be planted, in terms of belief systems, right? And so there's been so much damage here, Taurus, and I get it. Because again, this is the social meaning is where we actually make an impact on the collective institutions. And with Saturn and Mercury here, it seems like a reality check for all of us about this. But in particular to the Taurus person, it is in your professional or public life, your career, or what you identify as your actual mission. What you're contributing to at a societal level is the 10th house and your release of power. And I think that not only is it released, but there is a very firm and very sobering realization here of what it takes, and what type of energy the social environment has to exude in order to really do damage control to the damage that has happened in the 9th house, right? So, I mean, remember, these are just the structures and it doesn't mean it's destroyed the spirit or the spiritualized ideal of the collective, which is Aquarius, but it is suggesting for you, Taurus, that it's really about there is kind of a reality check in terms of the functional institutions and what is necessary at a mental and cognitive level for each of us to actually be able to do the damage control for whatever damage, whether it be natural, as a result of awakening or dark night of the soul, or if it was a matter of actual, whole fields of study being brought into question for the individual, or it was just the meaning of our society, or the meaning of our religious systems, or the meaning of our justice system, for instance. All of these things are part of this meaning and understanding of what it holds us all together. And it's that damage that is already done and is being assessed and felt very palpably. And in fact, there's going to be a connection between these two and Pluto before they move into your 10th house. But right now, at this new moon, as we are all making intentional, intentional moments with ourselves, we're all creating these intentional moments about our own growth and development over the next couple of weeks. In terms of this symbol of full engagement in the spiritual and transcendental experience, right? We're all having this, but it's the damage. It's the damage in particular to the belief system that is really impacting, I think, impacting one's ability to really feel like they have any ability to actually have an impact in this realm. And this is where I think the reality check is you kind of have to, because it's Saturn is the time clock. It is chugging on in this area of the 10th house for you, right, is incredible amount of power and stability, but also it's very limiting and it's not a lot of breathing room here to expand. It is absolutely binding it to the social order and binding it to time, right? And so Mercury is like, okay, this is what it's going to take in terms of my problem solving skills and utilizing my mind, for Taurus in particular, in the area of your career or your public and professional life. And to do that in terms of what is being unraveled and destroyed in preparation for a new building of the very nature of the social belief, right? And the institutions that it creates, right? There still has to be something left of what was destroyed in that karmic visitation, right? Whether, like I said, whether it be natural or not, we still have to be able to pull on the energy of the collective as a whole in order to do something about it. So, and this is not very easy. And for Taurus people, it seems like they're really put out in front about this in their life, right? Or it's a big part of the mission. So let's actually look forward here to the first challenge to this. The first challenge is the first quarter moon. It's our first crisis moon. In particular, it's definitely about what are we going to do, right? It's a crisis. It's a crisis of action, in particular, after we set intention with the new moon. We planted our seed, right? We knew that we had a viable seed and we were going to intend for it to grow. And then we placed it in its soil, and it's having its first challenge to that growth, which is the first quarter square. And it has a lot to do with what we're going to do, right? When we hit our first challenge. And for Taurus, we still have the sun in the 11th house, right? Of the social order in general. Now, what's interesting is Mercury has now come into the 11th house. And so it has a lot more opportunity to engage in imagination, right? Because it's Mercury in Pisces. So there's really no limitation to what Mercury can think of and imagine. It's coming in to help problem solve and engage empirical reasoning and logic to the to social problems, to social areas in general, right? And to social justice issues and issues of unbalanced dynamic or something being off, right? And so Mercury gets to bring all of the imagination to this process, while at the same time, in the same area, but at the same time with the sun that is drawing all of our identity and sustainment towards an area that is requiring our trust and surrender to the appropriate timing of things at this level. It's the moon in Gemini that is a half, it's a half moon, right? So you're not getting the full picture. You have Black Moon Lilith that's pretty much coming into a conjunction with the moon in Gemini, both these mutable energies in a square. So Taurus, I suspect that there will be a withdrawal or an urge to emotionally adapt or to find some sort of emotional security. And in fact, even some sort of sense of primal self-preservation in the realm of actual resources. And maybe finding like, oh, look at all the resources that are around me, which is such an interest. It's such a Taurus thing, right? Look at all the things around me that I could have, right? And they're everywhere, right? I have access to all of these different resources, and I'm really going to find my security in this place and be able to, put as many things on my plate as I want. And in fact, I'm going to maybe even hoard those things. And this is going to be an emotional experience, right? You may find your emotional stability somehow wrapped up in the resources and the abundance of resources that you have access to, and perhaps you will overreact, or maybe you may find you want to collect these resources. Maybe you like all of the options. What I do see, though, is that it's in the realm of the social order, the social justice, the social issues and problems, and in society in general, that is challenging this by reminding you that it's all in due time. Right? All in due time. It's when the timing is right. Everything will come to the table when the time is right. And that's part of surrendering to the archetype of Pisces, right? To go back to source, to swim in the ocean, so to speak. While there may be like this withdrawal or kind of like this emotional pull or draw inward to the very physical Taurus, because it's so related to who you are, in order to find some emotional security. But it's going to challenge you in some way here in terms of these intentions that were set in terms of a much larger social atmosphere that you're part of. At least now Mercury has moved into this area. There appears to be a lot more mental energy that you can direct towards these types of considerations and problems to be solved at a social level. And when I say social level, this can be your larger social networks, your social media networks, your neighborhood, your collective, your town, your community, the global network as well, global society. This could be it as well. And it's about becoming that symbol, right? It's becoming that symbol rather than looking towards some sort of emotional containment within just the world of assets around you. And that's very easy to go back into, and it'll feel like friction. And what's interesting is at the same time, we also have Saturn in a trine directly with the moon at this time. So while there is tension with the sun, it's Saturn in the 10th house that is like holding it down in your career area, that is actually stabilizing this mental energy between the moon and Saturn. So it's a trine between the moon and Saturn. So it's very stabilizing of the emotional self. It gives us a sense of authority, and it gives us a sense of like stability, and being in charge of our emotions, really grounding them, having some sense of responsibility. It may be limiting, but maybe that limit is exactly what we need, so we don't feel like we are just like spilling out all over the place. And it's, while there may be a strong urge to fulfill oneself emotionally through gathering as many different types of resources as one can acquire, right? It's like filling your nest with all kinds. I'm getting a strong hoarding vibe, but it's hoarding at a mental level, or hoarding of ideas in some ways. You can find some balance to your emotional state. You can find some check-in with what is, with Saturn up here in your career house, your professional house. So pay attention to what's happening up here, because this is, Venus and Mars are now, fully in Aquarius and in the 10th house. And so they are still traveling together mostly, and they are helping to unify our sense of what we want to grow, right? In terms of something new, right? This is where the birth starts, is these two elements, the seed and the soil, coming together and planting new ground in these areas that have gone through so much damage. And so they've already been through a lot in this area. And Saturn is like, it is the evidence of that, because it's time, and time has been spent here, and one foot in front of the other is probably the most stable position you can get in any area, and that's going to stabilize you when you may feel a little erratic in terms of your emotions at the time of this third quarter moon, right? With this square between the moon and the sun. So this is happening on the 10th, roughly a week from now, right, when we have this first quarter moon. And this is when we'll have our Starseed Fellowship. So that's for subscribers only on Subscribestar, and you have the link directly to you, and then we have a Zoom call that we can all hop on and talk about these things, because this is the period usually that there's going to be some level of challenge to who we are and what we intended at this lunar cycle. So if we move forward here to the full moon in Virgo, as we had stated at the beginning, in terms of where this is all leading up to. So we have the full moon in Virgo in the 5th house, right? So again, all of the energy is starting here for Taurus in the realm of the social environment as a whole, right? The community in which you realize yourself within, right? It is the community full of individual sovereign beings, and it represents, where you realize your mission, the environment in which you realize yourself and your mission. So when we have this moon here in Virgo, and it's actually on the 18th, so let's do that. There's other things that are happening here. Number one, this moon in Sun in Pisces, moon in Virgo. We also have Neptune is going to have a relationship with the moon's nodes. So there is a lot of karmic energy related to Pisces, as well as very personalized in the here now, in our feelings with this full moon. So you will really find your identity within the social collective at this point. Your personality and your sense of identity outward, your voice and expression outward in your social environment, whatever it is so bright, and it's so clear at this point that it's like a prism, and the light will shine through you in relation to the social environment as a whole, and refract into a rainbow, right? This is what a prism is. It shows you all of the wavelengths of the visible spectrum because of its ability to refract the light that seems to be just one singular source. And it's the realm of one's mind, and I would say a very bright and very spiritually aware and awake sense of self that is able to receive unified or unified source energy, and be able to also experience it and see it at the same time as in its multiplicity, in its diversity, right? In a social setting. What this is going to do for Taurus, I would say, with the full moon in particular, not just like the whole Pisces, the whole new moon in Pisces time, but this full moon, Taurus, will your heart be able to hold what it is pulling through in the social realm, right? Is your sense of your own authenticity, your joy and your passion, your optimism, your heart, right? That's really the fifth house. You know, what it is that excites and thrills you, and what allows you to shine as your authentic self. And when the moon is in the fifth house like this, I mean, you're very sensitive to, and very artistically, fluidly poetic, right? I mean, the creative expression has such a dreamy, watery quality to it, but at the end of it, do you still maintain your sense of individuality in when you're having this experience within the collective, where you are really identifying with you are identifying yourself with the social environment so strongly and so clearly that you may lose yourself in this process. And I'm not suggesting that you should or shouldn't, but what it's going to reflect back to you at the full moon, Taurus, is if your own voice doesn't get drowned out, and emotionally, right? And if it doesn't emotionally get, and it won't, right? What'll happen is that at the full moon, it'll be so full, so bright, so potent, so like ready to pop, that I feel like that you will be able to really spill over, it more so than in other areas of the chart, Taurus. This seems like that it's really not about seizing your willpower necessarily, so much as being able to harness this your own authentic voice and to allow it to flow through you creatively, right? I think that it's one of the easiest it's one of the easiest feelings I've gotten energetically from all of the readings so far is from Taurus at this full moon. Now, Neptune in the same area is also making connections to the nodes. So Neptune dissolves everything that it touches. It is the fog machine in a lot of ways, right? It's very confusing and it's very fluid, but it's also really powerful. This is Poseidon. This is the ruler of the realm of the oceans. And because it's going back to the beginning and going back to the source of all. And so in the end, there's no way not to do this. There's no way not to return from where you came from. And the ocean represents that, the going back to the original source. And Neptune in the 11th house brings this very broad humanitarian aspect to the realm of the social issue, the social organism as a whole, you know, making it a very spiritual and transcendental and very humanitarian experience. So, but eventually we have to be able to centralize our focus, our role within that, in order for there to be a functioning whole at all. And so this is about knowing your dharma. And when you know your dharma and you understand your own limitations, but you allow for that to be a way to embrace what needs to be what truly needs to be focused on in order for there to be a social collective at all, right? I mean, this is about knowing who you are and being able to fully give yourself to that experience. Now, if you do nothing with this awareness at this time, what you'll find is that the trine to the south node in Scorpio is what it'll do. It will certainly be like an X-ray photograph into who you are in your relationships, right? You will see very deeply into the underlying power dynamics of who you are in your relationships and how that's built on how it's built on trust, how it's built on intimacy or not, right? What if it's built on exploitation? What if it's built on manipulation? What if it's built on secrets, right? All these things that Scorpio represents. But remember, it's the past. So if you take this awareness and really become very aware and give yourself in the way that Neptune represents, right? Be willing to merge with in some ways, or let yourself go to or surrender to what your actual dharma is, and be realistic and aware of your limitations, so that you're not wasting energy, but you are in fact giving all to this process. It will be an investment into the very evolution of who you are as a person, right? And it's not that seeing who you are in your relationships at that X-ray level isn't important, but we want to activate and be part of the process of creating, in the areas where the North Node is pulling us, which is in who you are as a person. So this is going to come through some sort of such beautiful, poetic, creative expression, very emotional, very fluid, very lovely. Oh, wow, Taurus. And maybe very powerful, right? You may, the roar of the lion, it'll be very expressive though, and it'll be coming from the feelings and the emotions. And in fact, it's going to be in this realm that it's, again, like I said, it's not going to be about necessarily seizing power in any way. You don't want to lose yourself. And that, if that makes sense to you, then you can think about it that way, where emotionally you utilize your voice as the power that seizes your own identity, so you don't get lost completely in the identity of the social environment. That's a real risk for Taurus, but there's something here about the humanitarian spiritual nature that you are looking for and looking to be part of in the social realm that is really going to help in terms of establishing a sense of identity that is able to be strong and in touch with natural rhythm, and in touch with the natural rhythm, and in total resonance with the planetary rhythm or the natural rhythm, which is what Taurus represents. And this is why Taurus people are so into, number one, into like really nice things and wanting to be comfortable, having really nice taste in things, and wanting things to be beautiful and harmonious. But they also want to, there's a patience and a sense of stability, because ultimately, they are naturally inclined to just being in tune with the natural rhythm. So there's no hurry to do anything, right, necessarily. I do think Uranus has really been quite the ride for the Taurus people, but at the same time, this is the trigger of awakening. So an awake Taurus is an incredible Taurus, that is for sure. So my friends, I'm going to leave it there for this forecast. So if you are interested in reading or energy work to support your process, you can find all the links you need for any of those things in the description box below. My website, catalystenergies.net, the link to Subscribestar, my email is there, the link to Telegram, so you can be part of the day-to-day interface on social media, and the link to the free astrology summit about bridging sky and earth, or embodying our star wisdom. It's all in the description box below. So thank you so much, my friends. Taurus, I will see you on the next report, which will be the full moon in your 5th house of Virgo. I'm very excited to see what comes forward for you, Taurus. I'm very much looking forward to doing that report for you. So in the meantime, I hope you enjoy the new moon, and I'll see you on the next report. Bye.